Welcome to the Blue Cafe. We offer stories of infidelity, betrayal, and redemption. Please like and subscribe. Cheers. Now, on to today's story. My wife had an affair with her co-worker. Advice link to update. I'm in desperate need of help and advice. I, 28M, found out that my wife, 28F, had an affair with her former supervisor, 35M, at work, who's married himself with kids. We've been married for 5 years, and were high school sweethearts. We were each other's first relationship and first everything. When we were little kids, we were even neighbours. She has always been there. We both came from broken homes, but we always had each other, and we created something different than what we grew up seeing. Or at least that's what I thought. Maybe I was just one big idiot the entire time. I still work remotely while my wife has since gone back to being in person. There's not many women in her field, and she used to vent to me a lot that her job was more in line with a boys' club. Her AP, who was still her supervisor at the time, was supposedly one of the good ones and looked out for my wife at work. Recently, my wife received a promotion and I was so happy for her. She was now a supervisor herself. This came with some new responsibilities, such as having to take a few business trips during the year. Her first trip happened last week, Wednesday through Friday. Before she left, I told her that I'd be rooting for her from home, and she told me that she'd be leaving her heart with me and to take care of it. That's something she always says to me whenever we have to be apart. On Monday, she came home from work early. I could immediately tell that something was wrong. She looked overwhelmed, and there was a red mark on her right cheek. My wife is pale and tends to bruise easily. I asked her what happened, but she only asked me to hug her, said she just wanted to feel my embrace. I hugged her, and after a few moments, she proceeded to say there was an incident at work. She sat me down on the couch and made the confession that has destroyed me and completely uprooted my life. She had sex with her former supervisor on the team lead trip. I couldn't even process at first. It was like I was watching it happen to someone else, or like she was going to reveal it was a cruel joke. I think I would have accepted the cruel joke over reality. I was quiet during her whole confession, not saying one word. I was just in shock. Cheating is a sensitive topic for me, as it is for a lot of people. My own family was wrecked by an affair my dad had. I'm the one who caught him cheating and told my mom. My dad and I's relationship is not good at all because he blames me for ruining the family and he has never forgiven me. My wife saw what cheating did to my family, and knew how much it tore me apart. Heck, she's seen me cry over this back when we were teens and she comforted me. And then she turns around and does this to me? To us? Apparently, the man's own wife found out, and confronted her husband and my wife at work. It was a big scene with employees and customers all present. The woman had called my wife white trash and slapped her. After the slap, other employees started interfering and the woman was escorted out of the building. My wife then called her older sister, 30F. In her words, she said her sister scolded her and told her that she needed to tell me about the affair and that I needed to hear it from her. I still never said a word, and she asked me to please say something. The only thing I could muster up to say at the moment was I needed her to tell me what happened on the trip. She said on the second day of the trip, she went out for drinks with the other team leads and that the group stayed out late and she felt like she needed to participate for a team bonding experience. Throughout the night, each team lead wandered off until it was only her and her former supervisor left, and they went back to his room to listen to music. He kept complimenting her and telling her how sexy she was, and that if he were me, he wouldn't be able to keep his hands off her. He eventually kissed her. My wife told me she doesn't know what came over her, and that she wasn't thinking clearly, but she let him keep kissing her, which then turned to him groping her. They progressed to having sex. I didn't want any more details because I couldn't take it, and I got up off the couch, telling her to stop. She reached out to take my hand, but I moved away and told her not to touch me. She broke down crying, and started profusely apologizing and begging for forgiveness, saying how it was the biggest mistake of her life, that she hates herself, and she wishes she could take it back. She kept repeating how much she loves me and only me. That the alcohol clouded her judgment. I told her she needed to leave, she needed to call her sister to pick her up. She got up from the couch, crying even more, and tried to hug me, but I moved away again. She begged me not to do this, saying all kinds of stuff like she will quit her job. Give me full access to her phone. Saying we'll do counseling. I couldn't keep it together. I told her if she wasn't going to leave the house then I would. I didn't even stop to pack a bag or anything, but just went for the door. She grabbed my arm, I guess, to try to stop me from leaving, and kept pleading for me not to do this, and saying after everything we've been through that this can't be the end of us. Despite everything, seeing her in that state and leaving her behind while she was crying still tore me apart because I love her. I love her more than I ever thought it was possible to love someone else. But she broke me. She tossed our entire life and future away. I ended up going to my mom's house, and that's currently where I'm staying. I don't know how I kept my senses during the drive, but when I arrived, I just cried. I don't even think my mom has even seen me cry as a teen or an adult. The only person who's ever seen me cry is my wife. I did tell my mom what happened because I honestly didn't know how to keep it from her with me showing up at her place in that way. She was broken-hearted over it. She and my wife always got along. My mom treated her like a daughter, that was their relationship. She didn't pass any judgment, but said I could stay as long as I needed and tried to offer some words of comfort. Ever since I left, my wife has been blowing up my phone with calls and texts, but I haven't answered or wrote back. The texts have basically just been begging me to come home and to talk with her, asking where I am, and to please not give up on us. I just feel so broken. I thought I knew what this pain was like, but it's nothing compared to experiencing it yourself. I never thought my wife would do something like this. I always had the belief that there was no coming back from cheating for me, that the relationship would be over, but now I keep thinking if I should give our relationship another chance. Go to counseling together and try to salvage the relationship. I keep thinking back to all the history we have, how much I love her, how we always felt like matching puzzle pieces, and how when I thought I had no one, she was there. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to proceed. I'm at a loss. How did the supervisor's wife figure out that her husband had a one-night stand? This affair wasn't a one-off, it had been happening for a while and his wife figured it out. Write that woman a thank you and serve your wife with divorce papers. You can choose to reconcile or not after she knows you will absolutely divorce her. Yep, once the lies start, they'll never stop. Confused face, disappointed face. That was not the first time. The other people didn't just drift away, they waited for everybody out. She never would have told you if she hadn't been caught. How would App's wife have known if they had just returned from the trip? She no doubt had information that she collected over time. Think about it. How did his wife find out? She had to have collected more than that isolated event. Nobody gets caught the first time that they cheat. WW and her supervisor are quite likely a well-established couple at work functions. Up needs a lawyer, STD tests, and a workable exit strategy. She's just another cheat who got caught. This is an underrated comment. Legal help and an STD check would be pretty damn high on my list of priorities right now. That's how the BW knew to confront Op's wife. This has been going on for a while and BW has been collecting evidence. AP probably was more careless and got caught. You want the truth? If she is so interested in salvaging her marriage, have her take a polygraph. You will squeeze the truth out one way or another. I'll put my entire bank account on the fact that she was promoted so that he couldn't get in trouble for having relations with his employees, so he made her his equal. You reap what you sow. She knew how this would affect you and still didn't care enough. I am so sorry, Op. I think the two of them, WW and her AP, won't be working for their employer for very much longer. Company bean counters tend to look very unfavorably towards employees who needlessly put them at financial risk. Totally agree. It could have started out as an EA that progressed to a PA. Agree. How did the OBS know where, how, why and how to catch them? Sounds like it's been going longer than you think up. Plus the fact she willingly went back to his room to listen to music. Your wife is gaslighting you, big time. Go find the OBS and get more details. You may find the rabbit hole is bigger than you think. I am so sorry this happened to you, Op. You touched on a question I asked myself repeatedly. What I wished I would have asked my wife before leaving. Even if you felt like you had to go out with these guys to bond, then why did you continue to stay as one by one they each left until it was just you and AP? At any point, you could have called it a night like the others were doing. I am planning on trying to speak with the AP's wife. I know I need to hear what she has to say in order to get a clearer picture. She doesn't have an agenda to lie or withhold whatever information she has from me. I have found one of her Facebook accounts and I'm initially going to reach out on Messenger. I know the general area of where her and her family lives in town, but I don't think it would be best for me to just show up there. If there's a chance that AP could be there, then I don't need to risk bumping into him, especially with how I am feeling right now. If I was being honest, the thought of what the AP's wife has to share is ripping me further apart. I met her twice before, and while I don't know her well, she was a fairly quiet and reserved person. The way my wife described the confrontation on Monday sounded like someone who had reached their breaking point. She has to have a lot more insight than I do at the moment. Should ask your wife to give you a complete honest timeline if she wants any sort of chance again. Any omission and that's it. Ask for a polygraph to double check as well. This right here. If this was simply two people having too much to drink and things happened, the wife wouldn't have had any. While this is only an assumption, this makes a lot of sense. From personal experience, if you keep pulling on that thread, or even talk to the guy or his wife, you'll likely find out more. Even if it wasn't sex, sexting or other stuff could have been going on leading up to the trip. Don't talk to that guy. Talk to the wife. This sounds like trickle truth. You are being told the minimum that she thinks she can get away with. And only because the affair has become public and she fears you will be told. Do not believe that this story is true nor complete. Has she quit that job? I will bet not. Although she may be fired soon. Her affair didn't just start and end with the work trip. There was likely an emotional component long before anything physical happened. And it's likely they were already physically cheating well before the work trips started. Op should speak with the OBS. She obviously knows far more than him, and that alone indicates there's more to the story. Bingo. How would the wife show up on a business trip the days after they had sex unless she was psychic? This wasn't the first time, I guess, and the wife stumbled upon evidence and went straight to confrontation. Yeah, we had a few drinks. Doesn't cut it. I am planning on trying to speak with the co-worker's wife. I know I need to hear what she has to say in order to get a clearer picture of the situation. But if I was being honest, the thought of what she has to share is ripping me further apart. I met her twice before, and while I don't know her well, she was a fairly quiet and reserved person. The way my wife described how the woman was when she came to the workplace on Monday sounded like someone who had reached their breaking point. Edit, I found the AP's wife's Facebook account and I'm going to try to reach her on Messenger. Update, my wife had an affair with her co-worker. Advice. Here is the link to the original post. Thanks to everyone for the advice, concern, and resources. With everything going on, I haven't been able to respond to every comment or message, but they've been very much appreciated. This week has been the most excruciating. I feel like a helpless kid again who can only watch as the world around me falls apart. And I'm going through it without my wife, who has been my best friend and support. I was certain I didn't have the whole story. So yesterday I looked into contacting OBS. I knew I needed to hear what she had to say in order for me to get some clarity. She wouldn't have any agenda to lie or withhold whatever information she had from me. I found her FB account, and wrote to her on Messenger. She responded no more than 10 minutes later and offered to video call right then. I immediately replied that I was available. One look without a word, and I could tell she was going through a similar hell like me. She said that shortly after being escorted out of the workplace last Monday, she actually tried to get in contact with me, but couldn't find my details. In fact, one of the last things she said to my wife was threatening that she was going to tell me. When she was saying this, all I could think of was how my wife rushed home that day and how her sister told her that I needed to hear about the affair from her. I asked her if she knew more about what occurred during the team lead trip, or was this really just an ONS, and how did she find out. What she told me confirmed my fears. The affair dates back to before the trip. Documented proof from texts that were of an intense emotional affair. All of this, OBS shared with me with screen share, and I could barely keep it together. She told me that back in January, she noticed that her husband was withdrawn and disinterested towards her. There were times she saw him texting my wife, but he would brush it off as work-related convos. The day before the trip, she went to the job to drop something off her, so had forgotten, and she found in his office with my wife, standing close together, joking and smiling. She said the whole atmosphere between them felt flirty. When they noticed her, they parted, and my wife's face looked panicked while her husband went over it all together. She said it was then that she felt certain there was something going on between her husband and my wife, but she didn't address it because she wanted undeniable proof her husband couldn't escape from. After the trip, her so was more distant and dismissive. That night, she waited until he fell asleep and then checked his phone. She went to his text thread with my wife where everything was there to see, intimate texts back and forth before the trip. It started as an emotional cheating. Others were of AP saying that it was impossible for him to focus at work whenever my wife was around. In these texts, it was clear that AP was the pursuer/aggressor toward my wife, but that doesn't really make a difference because she never shut down his advances. Some of the pre-trip texts were AP bashing his wife and going off about repeated miscarriages. It was just plain disgusting with how he talked about her to my wife. He kept mentioning how maybe he needed a woman like my wife. There were texts from last Thursday night with AP inviting my wife to join the team for drinks, and texts AP sent to my wife the following morning which clearly revealed that they had sex. At this point, there were no more replies from my wife after Thursday night. I didn't think it was possible for me to hurt any worse, but here I am. OSB said it took her everything to remain calm as she didn't want to alert her twins sleeping in the other room, but she didn't wake her husband up nor confront him immediately. She said that in her heart she was done with him, and that for her, he had crossed a line he couldn't come back from. She said she was more angry than she'd ever been during their marriage, and that through her anger, she was set on humiliating him like he had humiliated her. So she faked her smiles and acted like everything was fine and waited until Monday, where she was going to out him at work in front of his peers, underlings, and customers. She said this confrontation had been brewing for a while now. Apparently, it was only a coincidence that my wife was at work that day as well. When OSB saw my wife with AP and another employee, she decided to target my wife, too. When she went on to calling out my wife tried unsuccessfully to get her to quiet down. OBS then started saying her husband had no signs of remorse in the slightest, but only anger at her public outburst. I learned from her that AP was fired the following day after the confrontation. She also kicked him out of the house, and said one of the hardest things in her life was having to explain this all to her twins. I had an idea of what she meant because I saw my own mom have to do the same thing after my dad. She said that this whole ordeal showed her who her husband really was, and while her husband pursued my wife, nonetheless my wife still had a part in the affair, and that as a woman, she had no sympathy or respect for my wife whatsoever. I told her I in no way fault her for that, and that she has every right. She actually apologized to me for her husband's role in the affair. I literally was at a loss for words for a moment, and then I apologized for the part my wife played, and she said that her and I are now a part of a club we never wanted to be in, a club that our SOs forced us in. She asked me about my wife and I told her that I honestly didn't know what I was going to do, but that I wasn't currently staying with my wife. She wished me all the best, and I did the same to her, and before ending the call, we exchanged numbers, so if we ever wanted to talk again. Every raw emotion was only heightened. I confided in my mom about what I learned and she still didn't voice any judgment, but I could tell that she's upset with my wife. A part of me feels great happiness that AP is losing everything, his job and his family, and that maybe he's out there suffering as well. But I'm not proud of that feeling. At the same time I feel immense guilt over that because a wife is losing her husband, and children are losing their family as they know it. Those kids are in for a whole world of pain. I feel anger also towards my wife for doing this to us, for breaking our vows, and for putting my health in jeopardy. We did have sex after she returned from the trip, and the post-trip texts hint that protection wasn't used. I do know I should resume contact with my wife regarding the information OBS has provided me with, and demand a timeline. But at the same time I feel even more lost than I was when I made the original post. I feel like I'm just drowning here. So your wife lied to you again, even after DD1. Because it wasn't an ONS on a business trip. It was months. Yikes. Sorry man. That's brutal and I'm glad you're with family and getting support. Sorry, brother. You know the details. Talk to a lawyer about options now. Just be careful if you choose reconciliation. Protect yourself. Your wife may not have returned the text after Thursday, but she was clearly fraternizing with him again. It was going to continue. Sorry man. I was one of the commenters that there was more to the story. Obviously, this is horrible and you are part of the club that no one should be part of. Continue doing the 180 and grey rock method. Look it up. Keep up North Carolina with her. You have to consult a lawyer. Have her served. You can still take it back. I'm curious where the AP is living. If the wife kicked him out, is he over at your house? Has he reached out to your wife and is planning things with her now? You can't trust your lying wife. She lied to you for 5 months while she carried on this affair. Even if you get a timeline, it won't be true. She will try to minimize everything. She knew how cheating destroyed your family and she without remorse went out and did exactly that. She is not your wife, partner or friend. You are supposed to be facing the world and future together side by side. Instead you stood in front of her while she plunged a knife in your back. This was the same woman that you had in corners since you were kids. This is the ultimate betrayal and she was never going to tell you until the OBS was going to tell you. The first thing she thought was damage control and how to protect herself. She never once thought about you. Don't forget, after she was with him on numerous occasions, she was coming home and kissing you and with you. Go for some icy greater than get to the gym, arrange through your lawyer a time to go home and get your stuff. Call a real estate agent and put the house up or have her buy you out. Since you worked from home, I don't think they could have been to your house for fun. She is 100% at fault and 100% a liar and will 100% try to gaslight and blame him and you, and she will do everything except tell the truth and take responsibility for her actions or apologize and say she is sorry. If you don't talk to her, she will write you a letter. Guarantee this letter will all be about her and not once be talking about you. It will be, I feel terrible, I realize now, I shouldn't have done this, I never thought about it, I'm embarrassed, I never once addressed you. Sorry again dude. You need to put this behind you and start healing. One thing for sure. She is not at home reading, not just friends and how to help your partner heal from an affair. She is at home feeling sorry for herself and how she can get you back so you can continue to emotionally support her. She isn't writing a timeline. She isn't trying to help you recover. She is waiting for you to come so she can minimize her involvement, and she will for sure try to sleep with you, and she has a broom handy to sweep this under a rug. She will not be trying to help you heal. it will be about her. Literally what I was about to comment about AP being with the wife. He may have lost his family and job, so the first place he is going to run to is Op's wife. Whether wife is talking to him or not, I don't know, but if the affair was emotionally intense, 100% AP would have ran to her either via phone or to the house. Do not do what I did and try to reconcile. It's miserable. My marriage is over, I know it, just keep stalling to serve him because he sucks me back in by love bombing me. It's a vicious cycle that is only causing me more emotional damage. Honestly, it's a shit show. You will never know the entire truth. You will never trust her again. It will eat you alive and you are never getting over it. Reconciliation sounds good, but it's not realistic. Every single day I sit back and think about what my WH did, and all I feel is rage. Spare yourself any more pain and just ducking bail. Your wife has been lying to you for months. She isn't sorry, she is only sorry she got caught. If the other wife didn't find out, you would have never known. They would still be having the affair today, don't forget that. File for divorce and end this marriage as soon as you can. Don't know what kind of mental gymnastics you have to go through to justify this behavior and the obvious lies. She deliberately weighed her options, made a confident gamble that he'd never find out, and went for it. She 80-60 their marriage the moment she ducked that dude. Then it blew up in her face, she lied some more about it and he's all surprised Pikachu face that she lied more. Not trying to be rude, I know what it's like, skeptical. You'll be happier with time and her out of your life, Op. You know the truth now. Your wife was full on in an affair and made a plethora of choices against you. The non-use of protection. Sorry buddy. What is the use of a timeline? She kicked this off in January. She allowed this AP to badmouth his wife. Do you know what a miscarriage does to a woman? My wife had one early on. She still speaks of the fetus as a child. Your wife really is trash. If she had self-respect, she would have told him go have some respect for the women who carried 2 children to term for him. I would not be able to come back from this. Your wife is mean. Having unprotected sex with this disrespectful degenerate. There was a guy whose wife cheated and he found out. You know what he did? He ghosted her. Why do you want to talk to someone who had this little consideration for you and others? Her actions led to 2 children's homes being destroyed. How did you feel when your dad left? Get a lawyer. You have the screenshot showing and confirming all. Let a lawyer deal with her. She does not need to consume any more of your time. Allowing someone to badmouth his miscarrying wife. What a low-life human being. Having sex after sleeping with a degenerate like him. It's painful, but time to cut this cord. Your wife is not worth your time. Read up online on Chump Lady. Having unprotected sex with a lowlife, she's got no standards. Take more time to get your bearings. You need to chew on these new revelations. She lied about the extent of her actions. Even in the face of being outed by OBS, she stuck to trickle truth. Eventually you will need a complete timeline. You can't make a decision without it. Has your WS reached out? Update me as well. I guess the hardest part now is realizing your wife still refused to tell the truth. I think deep down you already know what you should do. Personally for me, any chance of reconciliation just disappeared with this new information. Do not be plan B. I know the feeling and I'm sorry, but there's no coming back from this. Think about all of the opportunities your wife had to stop this dead in its tracks but didn't. She invited each escalation and every time she did that, she betrayed you. Stay no contact with her and lawyer up. Steel yourself for that which you know you must do. Focus on you and stay strong. Get a lawyer. Do what he says. File for divorce even if you hope to reconcile. It can be stopped at any time. Separate finances. Change all your passwords everywhere. Close joint credit cards. Move important documents to a safe place. Check out the 180. https://limpsh.com/180 save marriage/. Get an STD check. Do not have sex with your Get individual professional, non-religious, counseling to help you cope and to help make decisions. Do not drink or do drugs. Get exercise, especially cardio. Go to the gym often. Get out with friends and family. Get busy with work, hobbies, and sports. Inform your family and STBX family after being served. Change your will. I'm so sorry, Op. I know you are crushed. However, you now have to consider that your wife has been lying and betraying you for several months. She lied to you when she came back, she lied to you when you had sex, she lied to you until she had no choice. It's hard to believe there is any remorse there when that is the situation. She regrets getting caught, that's all I can see. I would strongly recommend that your first course of action be to consult with a divorce attorney, a very good one, at least know what that course of action will look like for you. What to expect, what the attorney recommends you do. You can always stop things down the line, but getting ahead of the situation will help you immensely. He will have several things he wants you to do: separate finances, move 50% of any joint accounts, things along those lines. Follow the attorney's advice. I would recommend you have that meeting before you confront your wife again. I would also suggest that you ask KP's wife for printouts or copies of the screenshots she had. Give those to your attorney for safekeeping. I would suggest you at least voice record any in-person interaction between you and your wife for the time being. You don't want to give her the opportunity to allege that you harmed her in some way. I know this all seems extreme, but consider that you didn't think your wife was capable of the affair either. You don't know how things will go with her once reality sets in. I would also suggest that you get into individual counseling as soon as possible. Get with a counselor that is experienced in trauma, and hopefully specializes in infidelity. You are going to need help unpacking and understanding all of your feelings and emotions from this. You shouldn't make any decisions immediately, start working through things with a counselor. Op, I am so sorry you are in this situation. Two very self-centered people have now destroyed the lives of two families, along with two marriages. Please, make sure to take care of yourself. Eat and hydrate regularly, do your best to sleep. Get exercise to get rid of the anger and tire yourself out. There is so much more to discuss, and I would be happy to do that. But, these couple things are the most important in the immediate future. Please take care of yourself, Op. We hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Please comment, like and subscribe. Cheers. Have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are.